Welcome to the Donna Seebo Show. Donna is an international mental practitioner, psychic, award-winning author, counselor, speaker, teacher, and radio television talk show personality. She brings to the airwaves talented people from around the world who share their insights and experiences with you, the listening audience. Now, let's join Donna.
Hello. Today we're talking about a subject that is going to perhaps affect someone you know. And actually, we're going to be talking about multiple subjects today. But the primary core of what we are going to be bringing to you today in the way of information is information about a generic drug that's been around for a long time called Low Dose Naltrexone. Now, I did an interview on this about 5 years ago. This is something that has been found to be very, very helpful in assisting people that have alcoholism. But what they have been discovering, since I did that interview so many years ago, what they have been discovering is the chemistry of this drug, which is not an expensive drug, is assisting people with physiological challenges, mental as well, in ways that, well, it's really amazing. And my guest today, Linda Elsegood, is the woman that edited the material for this book. And she is with us from England, thank God for technology, and she's in Norfolk. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Donna. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think anytime we can inform people about options that perhaps can help them or a loved one realize that there is help. There is a way of dealing with pain. Now, you're the founder of what is called the LDN, and that's D like Donna, LDN Research Trust. You set it up in the United Kingdom as a registered charity in 2004. You put this book together, but you have your own personal story. You were diagnosed with MS in 2000. Now, this is an incredible thing to be diagnosed with, and here in the Pacific Northwest, where I am located, MS, fibromyalgia, so many people are affected, and I am just dumbfounded at how many people are affected here with those, just that particular companionship of ailment, MS and fibromyalgia. Tell us your story, Linda. How is it that you became familiar with low-dose naltrexone?
I was very, very sick, and my neurologist said to me that I was secondary progressive MS and there was nothing more that could be done for me. He'd examined me, he got me to sit down, he reached over the desk, shook my hand, told me, got up, opened the door and showed me out. And I was devastated because I thought that there would be a plan B. I just didn't realise that people had such diagnosis without anything else that, you could try. And at that particular point, I'll just very quickly tell you what I was living with on a daily basis. Cognitively, it was as though I'd had a stroke. I couldn't recall vocabulary. I couldn't remember anything. I thought I was getting early onset of dementia or something. I was 44 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I slurred my speech. I had double vision. I lost the hearing in my left ear. The left-hand side of me was pins and needles and numbness, similar to if you'd been to the dentist and the local anaesthetic was wearing off if you'd had a filling, but it was like 100 times worse than that. And even parts of me, say my shoulder, where clothing would rub on it, it would really, really hurt. I had burning limbs, restless legs, twitching muscles. I was choking on my food, so I was constantly being flat. I lost my bowel and bladder control. I mean, how degrading is that? very emotionally upsetting when that happens to you. I had very bad vertigo. I had no balance. I furniture walked. But all of that put together, and I lost the use of my left leg. It just the strength just used to go like turning a switch. And so I ended up falling an awful lot of the time. I used a wheelchair outside of the house. I slept, which was amazing because I had an awful lot of pain. And when I was able to sleep, you don't realise the condition you're in, but the days were just passing.
Mm-hmm.
It was Monday, it was Tuesday, it was Wednesday. What was I achieving? Anything I set myself to do, I failed. And I'm a workaholic, and I wasn't able to do anything. I felt such a failure, and I'd even contemplated on ending it all.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been my 15-year-old daughter who would have found me, and I couldn't do that to her. So I had to find something to help me fight it. I was told nothing could be done, so okay, let's sort something out ourselves. Let's find something that will help. I was only able to sit at a computer for 10 minutes at a time because I was just so exhausted after that, and my head, as I say, it was very difficult to concentrate and put a thought process together. And I knew I wasn't unique. I knew there were people out there, but people who I hadn't come into contact with. And I found people in America who were taking LDN, and everybody said the same thing. If it doesn't do you any good, it's not going to do you any harm. But quite honestly, at that point, even if there had been some awful side effects, I think I'd have still tried it.
Right.
But it's a very inexpensive drug. It has very few side effects, which are very, very minimal and only usually last a few days anyway. So how was I going to get hold of this drug? I took the information to my doctor, who couldn't prescribe it for me, but she said she'd be happy to monitor me if I could get it privately. So I got hold of a Dr. Bob Lawrence. He prescribed LDN for me. And in 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, in my head, which felt like living in a television set that wasn't tuned in, suddenly somebody had twiddled the knobs and I could see, I could think, I could hear. It wasn't back to normal by any means, and it took me about 18 months to get to where I am today. But I felt so good, and I know I've still got MS. I'm not cured, but I can have a good life, a quality of life, and I'm very, very happy. So did I want to walk away and say, okay, I'm fine? Or did I want to tell those other people that were suffering and in that deep, dark place that I was in? And I couldn't just walk away. I had to try and educate people to look into LDN, do their own research. I talked to doctors all around the world to try and answer their questions and put them in touch with other doctors that are prescribing, because education and knowledge is key, isn't it, to all of these different things.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that so strongly. And you can never know it all. And any good doctor is going to be open to suggestions that people will bring to them. I think any good physician or nurse, anyone in the medical profession, they want to see people getting well. They really don't want to have those people in their office. Now, let's talk a little bit about where this drug came from. It was discovered in the 40s, but what was so significant about it in the 40s?
Okay. Well, I only know about it from the 70s, to be perfectly honest. In the 70s, it was used for heroin and alcohol addiction in doses of 500 milligrams tablets 3 times a day. So they were taking 150 milligrams. And what it did, it blocked the endorphin receptors, and it made people feel really not too good. It was quite a powerful drug. It had been through trials, and it is an FDA-approved drug, naltrexone. It's also out of patent now. But they found in the trials that it was only harmful to the liver in doses of 300 milligrams a day. Now, as I said, that the patients that were using it at that time were only using 150 milligrams, so only half of what was found to be harmful. And Dr. Bernard Bahari started using it in his clinic in 1985. He was using it for AIDS patients. And I also have to say, back in the 70s, Dr. Ian Zagon was doing studies in laboratories on, animals to find out more of the mechanism and how LDN was working. So Dr. Bernard Bahari was using it, as I was saying, for HIV patients, which was halting the disease. So the actual virus, the HIV virus, wasn't turning into full-blown AIDS. We have now heard that the trials that they were doing in Nigeria for HIV have completed. I think this was only a few weeks ago, and the results were very, very positive. So that's something to look out for as well. But Dr. Bernard Bahari had a friend whose daughter had multiple sclerosis, and he thought that the way LDN works for the AIDS patients, that it was on the autoimmune component, that it should work for MS. And this girl did really, really well. Similar to me, it would seem, with her MS. So much so that after a few years, she thought that she'd been misdiagnosed, that she actually didn't have MS, and she was taking LDN for no reason. So she stopped taking it and had a major relapse. So that is a lesson I don't need to learn. I can learn from this lady. I will never be stopping, because I do not want to go back to being the person I was before. So we were...
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So we had initially LDN being used for MS, and that began to spread through the population in different countries as well as America. But then it got to that we knew how it was working, and that it was working on the... it could work also for different autoimmune diseases. So we had Crohn's and fibromyalgia, ME, rheumatoid arthritis, even type 1 diabetes, autism, psoriasis, pediatric Crohn's, pediatric juvenile arthritis. So many children are taking LDN, and it's just growing. We know that there are over 200 conditions now that have an autoimmune component that people are taking LDN for. Even alopecia. It's just, the list is endless. It's really amazing what this drug can do to help people.
I was intrigued to find, and you've mentioned a number of the various illnesses, but I was surprised that there was even something beneficial with the thyroid. Now, because women are living so much longer, many are developing thyroid conditions. I think of a very dear friend of mine who passed away at 94. Her mother had a thyroid patterning that was negative and did not have any assistance. And then my friend Margie, she said she had gone to her doctor, and her doctor said, it's your thyroid. She was in her late 80s when this was diagnosed, and so she went on thyroid medication. But she said it helped, but it didn't help. So with the LDN, there seems to be an adaptability factor to the chemistry of a person's system. And I find this most intriguing because we know that the body, especially as you get older, the chemistry manufacturing process that usually is very strong when we're younger decreases. And this is something that seems to enhance that chemistry manufacturing that often disappears for one reason or another, and our autoimmune systems are compromised severely, and that is happening at such a level today, and people are just wondering about it and don't know what to do, and I think medical people are frustrated too.
Also, talking about as you get older, LDN has shown to work well with Parkinson's disease. And there are people taking it for Alzheimer's. I don't know too much about Alzheimer's myself and the people that are taking it, but I do know there are doctors prescribing LDN for Alzheimer's. So, you know, it doesn't have to be quite so doom and gloom as we get older, because like you were saying, the longer, the more likely you are to have these problems later on.
Now, I wanted to bring something out that you have in the chapter on MS and lupus, that the commentaries throughout the book are very solidly presented. I really appreciated the clarity, and this is by Deanna Wyndham. And she said she recommends extensive testing appropriate to each person, and you need to tailor things according to whatever it is that they're going through. I have been talking about having that for the last 30-some-odd years, and it's such a delight to finally see people saying testing. But so many times you go in for tests, and the doctor will say, oh, this is no big deal, or yeah, we got to put you on this, and then you got to go on steroids or something. There really is a huge educational curve in working with the individual physiological chemistry of an individual. And this is not something that is all that easy to get, is it?
No, it isn't. If the first doctor you see isn't open to doing all of these different things, I would suggest trying another doctor. There are doctors out there who will listen. There are some very, very good doctors. And if anybody wanted to have help finding a sympathetic doctor, just contact me and I'd be more than happy to give you information of information of doctors in the area where you live. We have a private list where doctors have asked to be on the list, and we give the names out on a patient-to-patient basis. Those doctors who are happy to be listed are listed on our website. So that's a good place to start if you find your own doctor isn't open to the suggestion of the testing.
Yes, and I think that is so important because we are all so different. There are some people that, for example, can have wheat products, other people that cannot. There are so many different things that we are beginning to become aware of, and the individualized testing is paramount. And it has to do many times with DNA. It has to do with epigenetics. There's just so much here that needs to be looked at and seen with clarity. I was really impressed with the information on the bipolar situation and the depression, but I'd like to talk about autism for the moment. And I know that in your book, the LDN book, Low Dose Naltrexone, is something that most people have never heard of. They really haven't heard anything about it. But this regarding children, to me, is so important because we have, it seems like, an epidemic of little boys especially that are being given a diagnosis, and these children, their families, are just absolutely devastated by this. And it's very tough. Let's talk about autism for a moment because it seems to affect boys more than girls, although girls are affected. I've interviewed mothers that have had daughters that they just were beside themselves trying to figure out what to do. How was this discovered that LDN was able to assist these children?
Dr. Jacqueline McCandless had been using LDN for many years in autism, and she also had a granddaughter who had autism. Unfortunately, I think she died a couple of years ago, and she wrote an amazing book called Starving Brains. If anybody is wanting to know more about LDN and autism, that's an amazing book. Dr. Brian Udell was also a speaker at the conference in February, just gone, about autism, and I was spellbound. And he's the gentleman, the doctor who wrote the chapter in the book about autism. And he was explaining how these children who were unresponsive to medication, all it did was calm them down, sedate them, which I mean isn't ideal, is it? You know, sedating your child. But they were children who didn't want to have contact. And we had, amazingly, at the conference, a little boy called Jacob. He's one of Dr. Brian Udell's children. He's also a piano protege, and he played amazingly for us on a grand piano. This little boy, 8 years old, and you would think he was somebody sort of in their 50s that had played a piano for years. It was just perfect. Now, this little boy didn't want his parents to hug him or kiss him or have any contact with him. And he had been on LDN, I can't remember how long it was, just a few weeks. And this little boy, because she was constantly trying to tell a child who was kicking and fighting her and saying, "I hate you," I think he was about 3. She was always trying to love him and tell him how much she loved him, you know, and she just got nothing back. And this particular day, he put his arms round her and kissed her. And she said, "I love you, Jacob." He said, "I love you, Mommy." And this woman, you know, was amazed. She called her husband and she said, "Get the video camera, video this. I want to say it again. I want to get it." And she said to me, I've interviewed her, and in her heart, she felt if he never said it again, she'd got it on camera. She could watch it because he had never, ever been like this before. And this child just improved and improved and improved. I've met him. You would not know he's autistic. He shows no signs of autism whatsoever. And the protocols that Dr. Brian Udell uses, he also looks at diet and supplements. It's not just purely LDN. But the results that he is getting with children, you know, amazing. He does some absolutely exceptional work.
Well, this is so important, and one of the points of information that you give is that there is a cream that is rubbed on the child when the child is asleep, because naltrexone is very, very bitter, and so they're not going to say, "Gee whiz, I'll take a teaspoon of this stuff." No, I don't think so. So with this cream being put on the child once the child is asleep or before they go to sleep, this is amazing, absolutely amazing. And I can just imagine how many parents, or if anybody's listening to this show, where they have a child that is exhibiting this very abnormal behavior and they know it's something that's affecting the brain. I'm so impressed with the information regarding the fact that so many of these children have been exposed to environmental factors that, and the parents have been exposed to them as well. So the environmental factors, the chemical overload that has created this negative patterning, but it can be reversed. It can be brought into harmony and balance. And I was surprised to find that homeopathic, naturopathic supplements, there's these terms that all of us have heard But to be able to have a physician like Dr. Udall that says Udell, excuse me, that there's options here. There is hope. This is not the end of the road. This is incredible. This is absolutely wonderful. And I just think that the information in your book, all of these physicians, the information on cancer that you have in your book, you have Dr. Angus Dalgish and Dr. Y. Liu. I mean, these are people that are thrilled to know that there is something that can assist people. You are doing a big service, number one, by having the organization that you've started in England. And before we went on the show, you said you quite frequently came into the United States to talk to people, to have conferences. And I thought, this is so very, very important. There are so many people suffering with pain, with bipolar disorders, and there is this chemistry that we're just beginning to touch on that relates to the entire body, not just the brain or the nervous system. It's looking at the entire body, the entire person. This is such a big step forward. This is huge. You must feel so rich in your life that you are able to present this information to people, Linda. This is just amazing.
I do, and the book, I think, is the pinnacle so far. I wanted to put together in the book everything that anybody would want to know, not having heard of LDN before, where it would talk you through what it is, how it works, when you should take it, side effects, all the different diseases, how to approach your doctor, everything in one place where people can use it as at the beginning of their research, where I had to spend a long time, weeks, trying to find this information, and it's all there together. So I'm really pleased and so proud of all the doctors that gave up their time, and they're giving all the royalties to the LDN Research Trust. Without them, there wouldn't have been a book. So I'm just so grateful it turned out as I'd hoped.
Well, I think it's marvelous. You also have the background on all of the contributors that have put this together. You even have some contact information available for people where they could get in touch with some of these people that contributed. I am just so pleased to know that this is available for people. And I just know of so many individuals that would really love to have more information, because I know of, one gentleman I'm thinking of in particular, his research into pain and what he's been able to do for people is incredible. But to also know about this, we have veterans with PTSD. We have the aspect of alcoholism. We have these diseases that are evolving at such a rapid rate that people become so frightened. And your book, the LDN Book, Low Dose Naltrexone, I tell you, this, if nothing else, it makes you aware there's hope out there, just like what you expressed with your own personal story. Now, Linda, your website, or the website for this, is your organization. It's your organization, ChelseaGreen.com, and I'll spell that CHELSEA Green, just like the color.com. And when they go there, what are they going to find? Okay, that's actually the website for the book, where the publisher's web. But my website is www.ldnresearchtrust.org. ldnresearchtrust.org. That's correct, yes. And people can find information, fact sheets, list of clinical trials that have been done, carried out so far,
There's a link to our Vimeo channel where there are over 500 interviews with doctors, pharmacists, researchers, and LDN users for many, many conditions. And that is so important to hear people tell their story of their condition and how LDN has helped them, especially if it's a rare condition where people feel totally alone. You know, they haven't ever met anybody with something, say, like Hailey-Hailey's disease. To find other people, it's quite amazing. And we have a very active Facebook group as well. We have over 14,500 people, I think, there now. It's a closed group, so people can join. They can ask the questions. None of their friends or anybody can see their posts. It's all hidden. So we're more than happy to have people come and join us and ask questions. There are many people that would help and support them.
This is wonderful. Linda Elsegood, this is a fabulous book. And for those of you listening, you have two websites, chelseagreen.com and then ldnresearchtrust.org. Both of those sites can be so helpful to you, to someone else. And this isn't a magic bullet, but it is something that could perhaps bring relief to someone you love, maybe even yourself, just like it did for Linda. Linda Elsegood, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you very much, Donna. I really enjoyed it.
It's been a delight. And Linda, as I mentioned, is over in England, and I'm so delighted that she was able to be with us. Let's take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to The Donna Seebo Show.